Hello, 你好. Welcome back to Wisdom Wednesday. The date is May 6, 2020. Week number 8 of the coronavirus staying at home, social distancing, saving the world while not doing hardly anything at all. Although, a bit of good news, at least here in British Columbia, Canada, I've heard that we are going to start opening up the restriction. Things can start gradually fading back into normalcy or normality. A bit of my Asian heritage just try to surface there. Anyway, um, so that's good news. Can't wait to be able to get back there and go out, go back to work, and hitting up the pub, hanging out with friends, all that good stuff. Training back at the gym. Although I must say, I think compared to a lot of people, I'm one of the fortunate ones that I seem to be dealing with staying home and being away from people pretty well. Finding a lot of new projects to keep me occupied and always making these videos and make the Johnny Tiger Experience podcast for you guys. And so I must say, thanks everyone for continue to give me the inspiration and motivation to pump out more material. Speaking of which, if you have not checked out the Johnny Tiger Experience podcast, that is one of the best podcasts in the world, just in case no one ever told you about it. Of course, I am a little bit biased, but if you go to your podcast platform or go to anchor.fm or go to Spotify, whatever you use to download your podcast, and search for Johnny Tiger Experience, and you will find the Johnny Tiger Experience podcast. And of course, needless to say, I am Johnny Tiger. And this is again Wisdom Wednesday, where I will be gabbing at you about something that up here in my head. I don't know if it's wisdom or not, but anyway, hopefully it's entertaining, if not always educational. You know, we hear a lot about this proverb, this cliche, quality over quantity, quality over quantity. I don't know what you guys think of it. I think most people agree with the sentiment. But today I want to try to talk about maybe there's a different way to see that. Because honestly, if you are trying to start a business, if you are trying to succeed at organizing an organization or putting together a corporation, if you are trying to uh, succeed in leading a group, then you may not want to take that cliche too seriously. Quality over quantity. It sounds nice, but there's an intrinsic flaw in the logic of this proverb or cliche, this common say. It hints that you can only have one or the other. Now, if we sit back and actually think about it, that doesn't make sense. Because if all you want is quality, you want nothing but the best, then yes, you probably will not get quantity. You will not get a lot of things. But the same is not uh, mutual. It's not mutually exclusive. Because if you want quantity, that doesn't mean that you won't get quality. In fact, if you go for quantity, there is a chance that you may get even more quality than the person who only wants quality. For example, if I am going out there, let's say I'm a knife collector, and I say I only want the best knife, nothing but the best, best steel, best workmanship, best appearance. Well, I may get to 10 years and I only have two knives because I only find two knives that meet my standard. Now, if I relax my standard and say, well, quality is nice, but I don't need them to be that perfect. I'll take them as long as they're good. Then, at the same period of time, I may have accumulated the same two knives that other guy have, the guy who only wants perfect items, and in addition to that, I may have 200 more knives. And at the same time, I may be a lot more happy because I'm not constantly on the hunt for perfection. I don't know how many people have heard of the romance of the Three Kingdoms. I imagine those of you who are into video games and historical fictions and Chinese histories, you know what I'm talking about. But for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about 2,000 years ago, there was a period of time where China was fragmented into three factions, three kingdoms. And it's not until after a lot of battles, a lot of people died, that finally they got reunited under one banner. The three kingdoms were the three kingdoms uh, was the kingdom of Wei, Wei, kingdom of Wei, the kingdom of Shu, Shu, and the kingdom of Wu, Wu, Wei, Shu, Wu, each led by a different leader with slightly different background and qualification. But suffice to say, all three leaders, all three kingdoms were very powerful at the time. The kingdom of Shu was that kingdom that went after quality, nothing but the best. If you wanted to join the kingdom of Shu, you had to be perfect. Not just the perfect warrior, but you have to be virtuous, you have to be righteous, you have to be a good person. Everything had to be perfect. The kingdom of Wu, on the other hand, would take people depending on their status, their nobility, their rank, their family background. So uh, the kingdom of Wu believed that you have to be of high birth, you have to be of noble blood to be of use for them. The kingdom of Wei, on the other hand, would take pretty much anybody. If you are a good warrior but you have a gambling problem, no problem, come join us, but we won't give you enough money to gamble. If you are a great scholar but you have a problem with fornication, then that's okay, come join us and be our tactician, but we'll keep you away from women. Uh, if you are a great tactician but you have a violent temperament, well, that's okay. Come join us and we'll get you to work away from people. You can be on your own. That's the way the Kingdom of Wei did things. Whatever problem you had, as long as you had some skill that we needed, you're welcome. We don't judge you. We'll try to minimize the problem. We'll try to keep you away from things that you're problematic at. But if you still want to join, come ahead. We are not going to judge you for your past. We're not going to judge you for your imperfection, your problem. Now here's the interesting part. When we look back on the roster of warriors and scholars and tacticians and ministers that worked for for these three kingdoms, the kingdom of Shu, who wanted perfection, had a small, relatively small, but very impressive roster. Everyone in that kingdom was like Mr. Perfection, Mrs. Perfection. Everyone in that kingdom was smart, brave, strong, powerful, skilled, uh, whatever you can think of. They had the perfect package. Everyone from that kingdom was perfection. The kingdom of Wu, on the other hand, had a lot of money. They ended up with a lot of high birth noblemen, imperial people, people who came from influence and wealth and a lot of big money, big powerful backing. They had a lot of powerful family and businesses on their side. So their roster also looked very impressive. Now you look at the kingdom of Wei, who would take pretty much anybody. Their roster didn't really jump out at you. They just look like a big melting pot. There's some good ones, some bad ones, some mediocre ones, a lot of mediocre ones actually. But they had the largest, the most massive roster. They could easily field millions of troops at once. In the end, which one of the three kingdoms was victorious over the other two? It wasn't the kingdom of Shu, despite them being so perfect. It wasn't the kingdom of Wu, despite them being so noble and rich. It was the kingdom of Wei who gradually conquered the other two kingdoms and took them in under their own banner and finally uh, united China under one banner. Now, this was quite perplexing for a lot of historians. How could the one kingdom that didn't have any standard outperform the other two? The one that was pretty much perfection in one package, and the other one that was very rich, very powerful, had a lot of influences. How did this lesser impressive kingdom, how did they overcome the other two? If we sit down and take that situation apart and really look at it, it becomes obvious. Because the kingdom of Shu, while they were almost perfect, everyone who worked for them had to be perfect, their roster was small, which means every time they went to war, they had to lose someone. And every time they lost someone, it became a great loss. Let's say on the human body, if every organ is nearly fatal when it gets injured. Let's say if you get your finger chopped off, it's fatal. Let's say you lose a toe, it's fatal. Let's say you lose an ear, it's fatal because every organ is so important, so impressively perfect, and it's such an integral part of the whole system. Then you're not going to survive very long because you can't go to war without losing somebody. So every time the kingdom of Shu lost a person, it was devastating because it made them just that much less perfect. Now let's look at the kingdom of Wu. The kingdom of Wu was immensely rich and very influential, but because they only took in people of high birth and noble blood, so it resulted in they didn't have a lot of incentive to go to war, to fight war, to win. Because noble people, that one thing about noble people and royal blood is they didn't want to die. They had to count on mercenaries to do their fighting. And mercenaries will fight for you, but as long as the money is good. But they most of them not going to sacrifice themselves for your money. People will sacrifice themselves for a cause they believe in, but very few people will die for money because what good is that money if you're dead? So that is why the kingdom of Wu ultimately failed because they had a lot of money, they had a lot of mercenaries, but they didn't have anyone dedicated to their cause. As soon as there's pressure, people started to cave in, people started to want to surrender. Now let's look at the kingdom of Wei, the kingdom that didn't have any standard, the kingdom that would take anybody. Well, their advantage was their roster was so massive that every time they fought a war, let's say they lost 1,000 people, they didn't really care. Yeah, there's going to be a few good ones that get killed here and there, but most of these were mediocre to just shoddy, low quality cannon fodder. So they were able to throw thousands of people's life away just to kill one uh, important member of a rival kingdom. They were able to overcome the others by sheer number. And that's not the only thing. Another thing with the kingdom of Wei was because they were not judgmental, they were not picky. So a lot of the people that actually had some specialty would go to them. A lot of people that were specialized in an area. Let's say if we have a warrior who's um, uh, fearless in battle. Let's say this warrior who is uh, never lost a fight in battle, but he has a problem. He's uh, got a gambling problem. If he was to go to the kingdom of Shu, he get rejected because he's not perfect. All he is a butcher of men. He's good on the battlefield, but he's bad at everywhere else. That he will get turned away from the kingdom of Shu. He go to the kingdom of Wu, he got turned away too because he doesn't have the high birth, he doesn't have the noble blood. So at best, he would be a mercenary, nothing else. If he goes to the kingdom of Wei, however, he gets welcomed in with open arms, and they will find a place for his talent. They will find a place for his speciality. They will try to contain his shortcomings, minimize his problem, but they find a place for him and they treat him very, very good. So this resulted in a lot of uh, specialized people that were not so perfect otherwise went to the banner of Wei because of that. So when you're picking friend, when you're running an organization, if your whole thing is I want nothing but the best, I want nothing but perfection, everyone around me must be perfect, then all I can say is good luck. At the end, you probably will only have 2 or 3 people around you if you're that lucky to find 2 or 3 perfect people or people who are up to your standard in this world. And keep in mind, people change, people move away, people die. When you start to lose these people, it becomes devastating. Now, if you relax your standard and you say, well, okay, George is not too bad. George is he's very good as a handyman. He's very good with tools. But George has this problem where he never pay back the money he borrowed. That's okay. I'll still talk to George. I'll still buy him a beer once in a while. I'll just try to not lend him money as much. That's all. When he asks me for money, I will always find an excuse to decline. I will not outright say, George, don't you ever dare ask me for money again. You're not going to get another cent out of me. No, because that's going to make George go away. George may go to someone else. But I may say, hey, look, man, time is really rough. I don't have a lot of money either. So, sometimes when you ask me for money, I may not have it, but, feel free to ask. You never know. I may be able to help out. If not the whole amount, I can lend you $5 or $10 or buy you dinner to tide you over. By doing this, you will keep George in your circle of friends. And if one day you suddenly need plumbing done in your kitchen, that's when George becomes very, very useful. Now, if you are the kind of person that say, well, George never paid back the money, so I'm going to tell him off. I'm going to say, George, I don't want to be your friend anymore because you're always on to borrow money and you never pay them back. Well, when the day comes that you need plumbing done in your kitchen and you try to hire a plumber and no plumber is available or plumbers are very expensive, then you may regret not having George in your life. That is what little wisdom I have to uh, put out there today. Thank you again for being here with me. We will come back again tomorrow for Toys Thursday. For now, take care, stay safe, stay strong.